Hi, I'm Andrew Spellman.
And I'm Sean Manning.
And you're listening to the Best of 7 podcast, a semi-weekly sports podcast from the Dominion Post in Morgantown, West Virginia. We'll be discussing everything West Virginia sports, from high school to college athletics. Each episode will have at least 4 segments, at most 7, just like the title structure that inspired our name. This week we've got 7 takes for you. Everything from a UHS sophomore making a pretty good national stand to another high school senior this time signing with WVU. And then, of course, we've got some WVU stuff for you as well. So let's get right into it. First off, UHS sophomore Josh Edwards, cross-country runner. Does he run track too, Sean?
Yes, very well.
So he was announced on Monday as the Gatorade Runner of the Year for West Virginia. This comes, obviously, 2 weeks or about, I think 2 weeks after Leah Hatcher from Morgantown was named the Girls Runner of the Year. Sean, you wrote the story on Monday, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm going to let you take over.
Well, he was awarded the Gatorade Runner of the Year for cross country, which is well deserved. I mean, he as a sophomore, just coming off he won a state title back in November.
He did. I was there for that.
And he helped the UHS boys team win the overall team championship. So
he also did that.
Very impressive on the what do you want to call it? What's a course? That's what it is in cross country.
Yeah.
But what he's doing on the track may be even more impressive. They're not really one and the same. He didn't win the Gatorade Award for what he did this weekend at the Spire in Ohio. But what he did at the Spire this weekend is one of the most impressive things I've seen a local athlete do in my time here, which is going on 5 years now. He ran an 8:56 in the 3,200 meter indoor run, which he's only the 5th sophomore ever in the country to run a sub-9 32 indoor 100, whatever you want to call it.
Which is just absolutely insane.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
He's the fastest time a native West Virginian has ever run in that event. And right now he's number 2 nationally, according to Mile Split, in that specific event. And he's a sophomore. He's 16 years old.
Yeah.
And he's only going to get better. He's only going to get more in shape, more conditioned. He said his next goal is to run a sub 2 mile in under 9 minutes, which...
That's insane.
He could do it. I mean, he's hit every single goal that he's wanted so far in high school, and high school for him is only a year and a half gone by.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about Josh, you wouldn't expect him to be a sophomore by the way he speaks to you. He talks to you like he's a college kid. Very nice kid. When I spoke to him after he won the state title in Class AAA, he didn't seem winded at all. And I talked to him as soon as he crossed the finish line. Not as soon as he did, but basically as soon as he crossed the finish line. And not winded at all. Seemed like he could do it again a couple more times if he needed to. Needless to say, he's... definitely one of the best athletes you and I have both seen. So, a very, very good kid, a great attitude, and a great award to go with that.
The track season's starting here in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I watch out for him then. I mean, he's those distance events, that is right up. And his brother Nathaniel just graduated from university last year and was very successful. So, yeah, we will not be hearing the last of Josh Edwards, that's for sure.
Not at all. Congratulations, Josh. Well-deserved, and we're excited to see what you do moving forward into track season and, of course, cross-country back in the fall. Moving along. Preston Fox, another standout athlete that you and I have both seen. You have had the luxury of seeing him throughout high school. I've only seen him for 1 year, but one of the most impressive football players that I've ever encountered at the high school level. Super nice kid, kind of shy, which is a little interesting. At least he was shy at the signing day at Morgantown last week. So he signed with WVU to be a preferred walk-on, announced this a while back. You wrote about that. I was at the signing. And let's just run over his stats real quick. So he had 1,699 all-purpose yards, and he had 46 catches for 754 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then, later in the season, he had to run Wildcat with just how Morgantown was trying to overcome some of the the deficiencies they had in offense. He was used as Wildcat. So on the ground, he had 76 yards, and 5 touchdowns on 55 carries, which is crazy. So what do you think about this? Do you think WVU was a good choice for Preston, or do you think he should have stuck with University of Charleston like he was kind of thinking to go along with?
It's always iffy with these kids who want to walk on to Power 5 programs, but I give them all the credit in the world. If you think you can play at this level, who am I to say you can't? It's
right.
And I should have stepped. He will be playing inside receiver at WVU. That's what they're going to have him as. And I think that's a good spot for him. I mean, you never know. It's kind of a crapshoot whether these kids will make it or not. But Morgantown High has had a lot of success with the preferred walk-on program at WVU recently. And I see no reason. I mean, he seems like a team player. Like you said, he's shy. He's not the least bit arrogant. I mean,
not at all.
He was the best player for Morgantown High, I would argue, the last 2 years. I mean, last year he got hurt. He broke his collarbone. And after the games he missed, Morgantown's offense just completely went off the rails. And then this year he was clearly, I think, their best player, and they just wanted to get the ball in his hands as much as they could, which is why they moved him to quarterback to play Wildcat. So you never know whether these kids can make it at this level, but I think he would have thrived at Charleston or any MEC school for that matter. But, hey, I wish him nothing but the best, and I really think he could make it if his head's on right, which I have no doubt it is.
Yeah, and the fact that he's staying right in his parents' backyard, basically, he's not going to have, some of the temptations that other college kids may have who move from Mississippi or Georgia or California or Washington State. Not to say that he shouldn't be a college kid and have fun, but he already is grounded here. He has his family, so I don't expect him to be one of those kids that fizzles out for those reasons just from interacting. But here's an interesting thing about Preston. His dad talked to me a little bit about him. So he plays baseball. He's a great baseball player. So last year he missed 10 invited junior days because of baseball. He missed the Nike opening, the Rivals Combine, Marshall's Camp, Virginia Military Institute's camp, Fordham Camp, and that was all because they fell on game days. First camp he attended was WVU after baseball. He made one catch on a D1 defensive back that has the video of this catch has over 7,000 views according to his dad, and his dad said the rest is history. He then goes on to tell me he scored 39 touchdowns in 2 days at WVU 7-on-7. He played on a team that couldn't throw for half the season and still had 1,700 all-purpose yards. And his dad goes on to say, I honestly feel in time he will wiggle his way on the field. I don't think it's going to be in time. I think he could be seeing plenty of action this upcoming year, just the way that Neil Brown has been implementing these young guys with some of the issues but some of the injuries we saw in, the secondary last year especially. He could very well find quite a bit of playing time this year.
I do think he needs to bulk up.
Oh, for sure.
That happens.
Sure.
That happens naturally. A kid goes from high school to a college lifting program. I mean, Mike Joseph is one of the best in the country at WVU, so that will happen. There's no doubt in my mind. But yeah, I do think that, and his dad told me too that Preston was going to games when he was in diapers at Mountaineer Field. So he was born and bred in Morgantown. He's a WVU fan. I'm happy for him. I've always been envious of those guys who can run on the field in that uniform. So yeah, I don't know if he'll see the field this year, but I certainly think that this is something that could stick.
I think he has a good chance, like I said, but let's talk a little bit about that pipeline before moving on that Morgantown has with walk-ons. This is more on your plate here because you've seen these kids play high school and then walk on WVU. Yeah,
well, you'll have 2 guys on this year's team, not counting Preston, so 3 if you count Preston. You'll have Kyle Poland, who was a 2016 grad. He could be the starting long snapper, replacing Rex Sunahara. He's been in the program for 5 years now. He'll be a redshirt senior. And then you have Nick Malone, who was on he was on Morgantown's offensive line, played a little tight end. He had an offer from Pitt that got rescinded, but
good.
He's a Division I kid. I mean, he had an offer. He toyed around with Rutgers a little bit. I don't know if he'll see the field this year just because it takes a long time for offensive linemen to establish themselves as a Power 5 lineman. But Morgantown has had Shea Campbell, who started at middle linebacker for several games recently. He was a safety and gained like 60 pounds during his career at WVU. And then Shane Commodore, I think we're 2 years removed from the last time he was at WVU, but he got a lot of playing time, especially on special teams. So if these local kids can find a spot, University High's had several kids too who have made an impact at WVU, and I think it's great when you can take advantage of this walk-on program and earn your spot, earn a scholarship in some instances, and, you know, make the most of the college experience.
Definitely. All right, moving along. Sticking with some high school sports here. Last week I wrote, unfortunately it didn't publish the day I wanted it to because of school cancellations, but it's still published on Saturday that people should not be overlooking Wheeling Park, solely based off history. So Wheeling Park is, in my opinion, a sleeping playoff threat. They have yet to beat Morgantown or University, but Alex Vargo is a beast, and the more he plays his senior year, the more we see out of him. So what are some of the things you've seen in Wheeling Park over the years in playoffs that might flip the script this year and maybe send what we're expecting, the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the region, you know, keeping them from Charleston?
Well, one of them is going to have to play at Wheeling Park in the playoffs.
Correct.
Which both coaches could tell you that is not an easy place to win.
Well, Dave Tallman says it's not very special of a place.
And I think Joe Schmidl would tell you the opposite. It depends on who you ask. But the fact that just the way the playoff system and the formatting, whatever, is set up in West Virginia is one of them will have to go to Wheeling Park because Wheeling Park, they're going to win that section handily because John Marshall and Brooke have nothing. And the loser of this section in Section 2, Region 1, Section 2, has to go there, while the winner will likely host Brooke or John Marshall.
Right. It's going to be like last year. It'll probably be John Marshall.
It's been like that since the realignment in 2016. You lost
Right.
Parkersburg South and Parkersburg, and things kind of... It's almost an automatic ticket for Morgantown University to get the states, except when Wheeling Park is good.
Right.
And they're a team that I think they're talented enough to beat University of Morgantown anytime. You never know.
Right. Now, Wheeling Park has been pretty much on the border of 4 and 5 the last 4 weeks, I want to say. I don't think they've dropped lower than 5 this entire season, except for the preseason poll. So they're good, but also in that vein, University and Morgantown haven't really dropped either since they've been resting in the 1, 2, 3 spots. So here's why I think Wheeling Park's going to be a threat. Not only do they have Vargo, they also have starting senior guard Xavier Morris, who it seems like in the regular season so far, the two have kind of been hot and cold. It's not like KJ and Caden at UHS where almost every single game both are on fire. You know, they're putting up plus 15 points or plus 10 points or reaching 20. You know, when someone puts 12 points up, someone's putting 31 points up. It hasn't been like that. It's not that that on-court dynamic that Caden and KJ have. Morgantown, on the other hand, obviously has Carson Poffenberger, and they have that guard rotation, Xavier Pryor, Alex Rudy, and Mac McMillan, who are typically either, for the most part, all on fire or at least contributing, plentifully to each game. So I think if Morris and Vargo catch fire in a playoff game, that's going to be really hard to stop because we've seen how these two teams' defenses kind of start falling apart under pressure, intense pressure. It could be early season issues. Obviously, Dave Tallman touts his defense because he's one of the best defensive basketball coaches in the state, and Joe Schmidl is just as much. But I don't know. I mean, anything can happen, especially in the playoffs and especially at Wheeling Park. I've never personally been to Wheeling Park. I'm kind of inclined to believe Tallman because he's a Wheeling guy, and he says it's not that special of a place, but...
It may not be that special a place, but I just always you don't think that Wheeling Park team will be fired up hosting a regional. I know they did it last year against University, and University ended up going and winning the state championship. But I think that win at Wheeling Park boosted UHS because they were coming off a heartbreaker to Morgantown in the sectional title.
Mm-hmm.
They went up to Wheeling and won, and I think that kind of boosted them into the state tournament in Charleston. But like you said, I mean, you get two guys who get hot. I don't know. I mean, pretty much in my head, I've already locked up University and Morgantown both going to Charleston.
Same.
But
I don't want to look past Wheeling Park.
That's exactly it. You can't. I mean, you never know. And I know the coaches, one of them, each coach knows they could play at Wheeling Park, and that's not a game you want to look over.
So, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but let's move back just a little bit to sectionals. Do you think it's going to be the same as last year? Do you think Morgantown's going to have a chance to pull off that 1-point upset, or do you think we're going to see Morgantown go to Wheeling Park? It's really hard to tell just because of how the season's played out so far.
Both teams have beaten each other.
Yeah, right.
And they're probably going to play Saturday for the OVAC championship.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Morgantown had a really bad game against Martinsburg.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they've been damn near perfect.
Yeah.
And University they didn't struggle down in Myrtle Beach, but they lost to two out-of-state teams that are all both
two of the best in the
pretty
country,
good.
though. Yeah.
And then they lost to Morgantown. So I have no idea. It's going to be those teams have played some of the most incredible high school games I've seen ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fun as we head down the stretch here.
Right. Moving on. WVU baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Starting back up. You're the baseball guy. You're a baseball aficionado, so let's hear what you think about it.
Well, I was up at Mon County Ballpark. It would have been 2 weeks ago, and you just hear the ting of the bat and the smack of the glove, and it was a solid 45 degrees outside, and I didn't even care because, I mean, spring's on the way. But, no, West Virginia starts their season on Friday at Jacksonville. It's kind of become a tradition to start down in Florida. And they have a home game on February 18th against Canisius.
Oh, boy.
Absolutely no one is going to be there.
No.
But still, it's great to have baseball back. They are coming off one of the most heartbreaking, typical West Virginia-type losses you could imagine.
Right.
Up by 3 and allowing a walk-off grand slam in your home ballpark against Texas A&M last year in the regionals. That was a special team last year, and they lost a lot from that team, especially in the starting rotation. You lose Alec Manoa, Cade Stroud, Nick Snyder. Manoa was the 11th overall pick to the Blue Jays in the MLB draft. But you lose those guys, and they pitched, I believe, 260 innings, which is a lot of innings that you have to replace out of that starting rotation. So Jackson Wolf and Ryan Bergert are going to be your two guys who they're going to have to rely on. And Wolf was big, tall, strong lefty, but didn't have a great year last year. So he's going to have to really step it up. And then you look across the lineup, and they got a lot to replace there, too. You lose Darius Hill, who was a 4-year guy, which is rare in baseball these days. You lose him. I believe he's in the Chicago Cubs organization. Marcus Inman, who was the meat of the order, the power hitter, just gave up baseball. And
he gave it up?
He gave it up. He's no longer on the team, and he's not playing anywhere right now.
That's weird.
I don't know the reason, and I don't really care to.
Yeah.
He's no longer in Morgan. Well, I don't know if he's no longer in Morgantown, but he's no longer on the WVU baseball team. And then you lose Ivan Gonzalez, also known as Pudge, who a catcher who kind of was the glue. He was a leader guy, kept that rotation together. You lose Brandon White in center, who was one of the most tremendous center fielders I've ever seen defensively. He was extremely fun to watch defensively. His bat can be replaced, but his defense not necessarily. So you do have guys back. You have Tyler Dones back at second, who will be the leader of this team. He was a preseason All-Big 12 pick, as is Paul McIntosh, who was the designated hitter most of last year, but will slide behind the plate at catcher to replace Gonzalez. Tevin Tucker back at shortstop. mediocre freshman year, but you get thrown into a starting role as a true freshman, that's going to happen. But perhaps the biggest piece they have back is Braden Zarbnitsky, who missed all of last year with an undisclosed injury. He was the top of the order guy. I mean, he was the guy that made a lot of things happen on WVU's offense. He'll probably slide back into left field, and also he can pitch. He'll give you innings out of the bullpen that they missed a lot last year too. So having him back will be huge as far as a leadership guy, a clubhouse guy who's been around for a long time. So it's going to take a lot to match what they did last year. I don't think they will, but I don't think this team will be as bad as the losses show, if that makes any sense. I think it'll be a good year, but not host regional type year.
It's not going to be a completely rebuilding year like you usually see when all these power players leave a team.
Which is kudos to Randy Mazey. He's built something here.
Yeah.
WVU baseball has built something. I never thought I would say that. So it's a testament to what he's been able to do.
Before we move on from this, I don't really have anything to add. I'm not a huge baseball guy. Obviously, if anyone who has followed the last two episodes knows by this point. So can we expect you to be writing this? Are you the WVU baseball beat guy?
I'll be rotating.
You and Justin? Me
and Justin Jackson. Justin is obviously extremely busy with WVU basketball right now, so I'll take the cold weather games, and then he'll probably jump into baseball a little bit when WVU football spring practice starts. But no, we'll definitely have you covered for WVU baseball this year.
Very good. Moving along. Something I can talk about. WVU football. So Sean and I are going to start previewing every episode, different pieces of the football team. And why not start our very first preview with the quarterback situation? Sean, I will again let you take the lead on this and respond in my due time.
Well, I don't think this time last year we didn't really know who the starting quarterback was going to be. One, we didn't know where Austin Kendall's eligibility was going to be.
Right.
Lincoln Riley may have still been blocking him at this point, for all I can remember. But having to replace Will Greer, whatever. This year, I think we have a pretty good idea of who the starter is going to be, which will be, believe, will be Jarrett Dagey. I think he certainly earned that with the way he finished the year. With the new redshirt rule, was able to play in 4 games and played very good. I won't say great, especially that TCU game at the end of the year. He threw 3 picks.
Right.
But it's his job to lose. Could he lose it? Sure. I do think it'll be an open competition because I do think that's how Neil Brown operates. He's not going to say Daggy's the starter from day one this spring. But I do think it's his job to lose. But what's interesting is going to be what's behind him, which goes back to Austin Kendall, add in Trey Lowe, and add in true freshman Garrett Green. And who's going to win that backup job? Are some of those guys even going to make it out of the spring? I don't know. That's to be determined. But I do think Kendall would be a very serviceable backup. I do think Trey Lowe, I know he's been kind of pumped up by this fan base as being the next great thing because he's different. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people want. But he's had his chances and has not gotten it yet.
Right.
And Garrett Green, kid, freshman from Tallahassee, Florida. We'll see. He's pretty short. I believe he's under 6 foot. But I think he'll redshirt this year. That doesn't mean he can't play 4 games.
Right. So I think first we should look at, obviously we both think Daggy's going to be the starter. If we had to guess just by his last 4 game performances. So in those games, I have the stats pulled up here. He went 79 of 120. That's 65.8%. He had 818 yards, 7 touchdowns, and then those 3 interceptions. He was sacked 7 times, which goes to speak to
I don't think that's his fault.
It is not his fault. I said that goes to speak to the offensive line problems that you and I have talked about time and time again. On the other hand, Austin Kendall's stats, not as great. So, With WVU, he went 187 of 304. That's 61.5%. He had almost 2,000 yards. He had 1,989, but he averaged about 6.5 yards. He had 12 touchdowns, and this is the big one, 10 interceptions. So anyone that watched Austin Kendall last year knows that he's kind of a loose cannon in the pocket. In my opinion, it didn't look like he really thought through a lot. He had a lot of pressure coming on him, so I'm not gonna sit here and hate on him completely for that. But still, he didn't have good pocket presence in my mind. He had a lot of chances, but he just liked bombing it down the field, kind of as like what seemed to me to be a last resort. Whereas Deggy seemed to be a little more professional in the pocket. He was a lot more calm. He wasn't afraid to bomb it downfield, but at the same time, he was smart enough to have that good presence. And I think a lot of that comes from his time as a D1 quarterback with Bowling Green. So, I don't know. It's kind of a give and take. Obviously, Kendall didn't have any real experience in Oklahoma. So, do you think it was more of this is his real first year and he made a lot of stupid new quarterback mistakes? Or do you think he's just not that great of a quarterback?
A little bit of both. He played behind two Heisman Trophy winners at Oklahoma, and Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. And this was his only real shot playing quarterback. While Jarrett Dagey played a lot at Bowling Green. I mean,
right.
It's Bowling Green, it's the MAC. You can compare that to the Big 12, whatever. But
it's still experience.
Right, and he played really well at Bowling Green. But where I think the biggest difference was between those two last year was, like you mentioned, Dagey's poise and ability to move around in the pocket behind a struggling offensive line. There was no running game for either one of them. Neither one of them had...
There was no running game for anybody.
A semblance of a running game,
right.
Which is still mind-boggling to me with the backfield you had last year. But anyway, I think Kendall is shed in a bad light that's not necessarily fair. But I also think it was very obvious how much better the offense was under Dagey. So
right.
Take that for what it is. I do think Dagey deserves to be the starter over Kendall, but I also don't think Austin Kendall is a bad quarterback by any stretch.
Do you think he's more serviceable as a backup?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And I'm kind of joking here, but like I said, he backed up two Heisman Trophy winners. That's not the reason they won Heisman trophies, but
no,
he's an experienced, knowledgeable. He's smart.
He's going to be a really great coach.
I think he could be a coach,
Yeah.
but I think that he has certain limitations, especially in the pocket behind an offensive line that's not very good, and it wasn't a very good situation for him last year.
Right.
And Dagey stepped in and proved, hey, we can do this.
Right.
Dagey went 2-1 at the end of the year,
mm-hmm.
while Austin Kendall won 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's take a bet real quick. How many games in if Dagey is the starter until Mountaineer Nation wants him out of Morgantown? I say 3.
if he throws, they play open against Florida State in Atlanta. If he throws an interception in the second quarter, by the second quarter.
Wow, you're really breaking this down here.
Oh, I know how this fan base operates.
Yeah.
There'll be time to call in for Trey Lowe. Trey Lowe is like Bigfoot. Even though we've seen him, we haven't seen him on the field.
I think if he goes 4 and out on his first drive in Atlanta, they'll want Kendall in. And then they'll want Trey Lowe in once Kendall throws an interception on his first pass.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun game, man. I'm really excited to see that Florida State game.
I really am, too. I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but I'm not.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm really excited. The last time WVU was at the Chick-fil-A kickoff was back in 2014 when they played Bama and actually gave Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide a run for their money. Only lost by 10 points.
That was coming off a 4-8
Yep.
season, and everyone thought that they were going to go in there and get obliterated. And
Yep.
they really...
It was what? Maybe it was 33-44. I think it was 11 points.
I think it was 33-23.
So it was 10 points.
I think it was 10.
I was there for that game. That was a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Kevin White. That was the year he exploded. He caught a touchdown, offered return the kickoff for a touchdown.
Yep. That touchdown he caught, he ran into me. Fun times, fun memories, working at the WVU student newspaper. Shameless plug. Well, I think that's a good summation of what we're going to be looking at quarterbacks, so I think it's time to move on. WVU basketball. Sean, I am so glad that you have finally come over to my side of the table on this.
Oh,
yeah.
You weren't going to gloat any longer than that?
No.
Well, that wasn't really gloating. I'm impressed. So
I don't need to gloat. I let the stats speak for itself.
If we want to revisit what we talked about on our last show,
mind you, something that got a lot of people irritated with me.
Yeah, well, we're not going to cross that bridge.
No, I'm saying got a lot of people irritated with me about the WVU basketball team.
Oh,
yeah,
my bad.
It's okay.
People were mad at Andrew for other reasons, but
yes.
Anyway, I was all in. I was ready to crown this team a Final Four bound, whatever. But to be fair to me, I also said they needed to prove they could win on the road.
Correct. You did say that, and they have not proved that.
They have far from done that. When they're at home, they look like a national championship team. When they're on the road, they look like boot it from the first round of the CBI type team.
And it's too late. I don't mean to interrupt you and interrupt your flow, but it's too late now to say if they win the next few road games, even though they are really good road games, to win, it's not going to put them in a better spot, I don't think.
If you beat Baylor on Saturday, number 1 team in the country on the road,
right?
It might take away a little bit of the
pain,
absolute atrociousness that they've been in Big 12 play on the road so far.
But I think it's too late in the season now. That one win will definitely do something for them, but it's not going to make up for every single road loss that they've had so far. 2 teams they should not have lost to, i.e. Kansas State, Oklahoma. So
I've got some numbers here.
Let's see them. Hear them. Let's hear them.
For West Virginia, at home, they are scoring 76.7 points per game.
Okay.
On the road, they are scoring 63.2 points. That's nearly a 15-point difference home and away. Defensively, at home, they are allowing 55.2 points. On the road, they are allowing 68.6 points per game. The most startling thing, now they've played 5 games on the road and 6 at home as of right now. They play Kansas Wednesday night at the Coliseum, so it'll be another home game. But right now they've played one more game at home than on the road. They are +9 rebounding on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes a +14 against Kansas in the first first road game in Lawrence. At home, they are +100. They are out-rebounding teams at an astronomical rate at home, and on the road, they're pretty mediocre. I mean, it just makes no sense to me what this team does differently on the road compared to... I know they're playing different teams. The only 2 teams they played both are Texas Tech and Kansas State, which they're 2-0 at home and 0-2 on the road. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. It seems, and Bob Huggins had a pretty good quote on his radio show after this Oklahoma game, that his team doesn't look like the same team and that you see here or that he sees in practice. I was having a conversation with a guy at the bar about this on Saturday, and we were saying, how they're being, touted as the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. At this point, I don't see them being any higher than a 4 seed. which down the road, barring an upset, would probably put them in the Elite Eight, which they would be playing who, like Louisville at that point? Ideally. Doesn't matter.
It's just, at that point, if in the Elite Eight, if you're a 4 seed, you're probably playing, not probably, but you should be playing a 1 through a 3 team that's better than you.
Right.
A higher seed.
Right. So looking ahead to that, I really don't see them being higher than a 4 seed. If they do get higher than a 4 seed, then good for them. Then they have a better chance of being that Final Four team that we've been talking about. But right now,
and
they might lose in the first round.
And if they are better than that come about a month from now, that means they've turned it around on the road.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, that would obviously mean that this is fluky, but this trend is...
It's very disturbing.
Yeah. But you know what? They don't play road games in the NCAA tournament.
No.
They play neutral court games.
Right.
But they also don't play at the Coliseum, so
yeah.
This team has to figure it out.
And not the only neutral court game. What? Because I suppose the Mexico.
Yeah, Cancun.
Cancun. They're in Cancun. Those they lost one game in Cancun, right?
Nope, they went unbeaten. They beat Northern Iowa, Wichita.
St. John's was their first loss.
Yeah, but that was a road game.
It was a road game
at Madison Square Garden. You beat Ohio State on a neutral court.
Yep.
You beat Youngstown. The only 2 true road games that they've won this year are Oklahoma State and Youngstown State.
And Youngstown...
That is it.
Yeah, and Youngstown was technically a neutral site.
No, it was at their home arena.
Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't even on TV.
I thought Justin had wrote that it was technically a neutral site game.
Okay, hang on. The game was in Youngstown. It might have been technically at I don't know, but it was in Youngstown. So I'm counting it as a road game. I don't care.
Fair. Okay.
But
that's fine.
That's it. That's the only 2 teams they've beaten on the road.
Yeah.
That ain't good.
Nope. They almost beat Kansas.
Woohoo.
But a loss is a loss.
That was the best they played on the road this year, I think. Even Oklahoma State's not good. So you should beat that team. But they play Kansas tough.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think they can beat Kansas at home. The stats prove it.
Absolutely.
Oh. Well, thank you for finally coming over to my side of the table here. I appreciate it. I really do hope this team turns it around. I don't want to see them fail, obviously. But at the same time, it's hard to take in those numbers and not be hurt by them.
I should mention these numbers are Big 12 play only in the Missouri game, which was it's not the whole season, but that proves my point even more.
Exactly.
Conference play is what matters at this point.
Exactly. Moving along. Our final surprise topic, number 7, the best of the best. ESPN Plus.
Oh boy, I can feel people shaking right now.
So Sean and I have had the privilege of getting a lot of complaints about this, and we felt it was time to kind of clear some things up. So ESPN Plus has become more of a problem than expected among Sean and I. We kind of assumed that a new streaming service was going to affect the way that... Obviously, it was going to affect the way that people watched it, but with streaming services becoming more and more popular, I personally didn't imagine I would get so many phone calls and so much feedback about something that we have nothing to do with. So let me just start with this. The Dominion Post has nothing to do with ESPN Plus. We do not. We do. It is not our program. So please stop yelling at us for you not being able to figure out ESPN Plus.
I will gladly walk you through how to do it.
Right.
But And this is not a WVU thing either.
It's
they
not.
have nothing to do with it.
It
So
is
don't yell at them either.
It is a ESPN and Big 12 child. I feel like that's a good way to put it. ESPN and the Big 12 Conference had a baby, and it is ESPN Plus, the Big 12 network.
Big 12 now.
Big 12 now. Sorry, not the Big 12 network. Anyway, I understand where people are coming from. Like, I have grandparents. My last great-grandparent just passed away about a month ago. So trust me, I understand, like, the block that it takes older people to get over with this. And like Sean said, we're more than happy to walk you through it. But we really cannot help the fact that these games are streaming. When you switch so abruptly, this is where I'm on the side of the people calling in. When you switch so abruptly to a brand new streaming service, then, yeah, you are going to get a lot of irritated people. They're going to like, what the hell's going on? Why can't I watch the game anymore? What said it's on ESPN? I don't see it on TV. And the other problem is West Virginia doesn't have great broadband like around the state. One of the biggest issues is with this game that came out a while ago called Fallout 76. They set it in West Virginia, and it's this giant online massive multiplayer game that most of West Virginia can't play because we don't have great internet here. It's kind of become a joke, and now the sports world is kind of seeing it more and more with this ESPN Plus program. I don't blame people for not wanting to spend more money on something, but does it help the Big 12 Conference? Yeah, of course it does.
One of my things that has kind of annoyed me with the people who are against this is that, so it's an additional $5 a month for the service alone, or you could bundle it with Hulu, Disney Plus for, I believe, $13 a month.
$12.99, yes.
Which is a fantastic deal.
It is.
If
I have that bundle, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I do the same. I'm a big Star Wars guy, so Disney Plus is worth it. But people are like, your cable, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, FS1, that's not free either.
No,
you're paying for that. It's right. People act like this is like they're able to watch the games for free any other way, so why do I have to pay for it now? No, you're already paying for it.
Right.
But I also understand you don't want to have to pay an additional $5 on top of what you're already paying for cable, which I highly recommend cutting the cord. I don't mean to go all millennial on you guys, but anyway, streaming is the future.
Yep.
It is. That's the way things are headed. We went from these basic cable to premium cable to having thousands of channels, and now we're kind of going backwards for a cheaper streaming service, whatever. But people aren't willing, and people don't want to give Disney more money. That's kind of what but you're going to have to. Like, you don't have to like it, but that's the way things are moving. And
right. You're paying for stuff that you don't know Disney is getting money. You don't know Disney's getting money for some of the things that you're buying. The same with any other company that has all these offshoots and has kept buying up the market. So, yeah, Sean's right. It is the future. Just buy it. It's really not that hard. And if you don't like it, then unsubscribe. But you're going to be missing a bunch of games next year.
Oh, and that's this week alone. West Virginia is facing the number 3 team in the country in Kansas on Wednesday night.
Right.
And they're facing number 1 Baylor on Saturday. Both games are on ESPN Plus.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of upset people this week
right.
that they can't watch their Mounties, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
But it's $5.
And here's the other point.
$5.
Let's say you are a Washington State fan, or you are a Clemson fan, or you're for some reason, a Texas fan. You don't just pay $5 to watch WVU games. You're paying $5 to get access to every single game that it streams on ESPN Plus. yes, they curate it not to like your fan base or to your tastes, but some games, some really good games, are actually going to end up on ESPN Plus, i.e. Baylor and WVU this weekend. So, you're not just spending $5 to watch WVU. You're spending $5 to watch WVU, Washington State, Iowa, Minnesota, Pitt. The list goes on and on and on and on. And you get so much out of it, too. So it's not a waste of money by any means.
And this is something, too, is I know people are upset that like marquee matchups are going to this and not to ESPN, but this just gives ESPN more ways to stream different and air different things. When games like West Virginia and Baylor are not on ESPN, another game is. When West Virginia is on ESPN, that bumps another game to ESPN Plus. It's just there's a way for them to stream more games and
connect more people to the teams that they want to see. Basically.
Correct. And while we're on the topic today, Shelley Moore Capito had an opportunity to speak with Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, and she just pretty much straight up asked him, you realize the issues that we have here in West Virginia with not only our internet, but people just can't watch WVU basketball when it's on ESPN Plus. And this was Bowlesby's statement on public record. We took a leap of faith and believe the ESPN platform is best in class. So it's a voyage of exploration. There isn't any doubt about that. We live in 5 states. These are all Big 12 states with 35 million people. And as such, there isn't really the option of a linear network as some of the other conferences have done. The process is the best we have available to us, and frankly, it's quite good. We're up to 8 million subscribers. We're part of a package that includes Disney Plus and that has about 30 million subscribers. The cable universe is shrinking about 1.5% to 2% a year. We're going to have a lot fewer cable households down the road than we have today, and the digital platforms are the future.
Right. And here's the thing about streaming. This is only going to get better. It could get worse in some circumstances, but the further this technology gets along, the better it's going to be. I know some people might not be around for it. I totally understand how it affects older generations who, I don't want to call them technology inept, but to a point that's kind of true. So, and another thing is, it does suck to put $5 more on your bill per month when we do live in a state that has a relatively low median income. It's hard enough when you have to spend, extra money on what you name it, and you don't have that much income. So I get it. So even with all that, just sign up for it.
And if you have internet issues, that is something that West Virginia as a state, I think, needs to address.
And they are trying to address it.
And they are. And it's unfair that half the state, probably more than half the state, does not have broadband internet, which that's not ESPN's fault.
No, it's not.
So don't blame them.
If you want better internet, call the people responsible.
Exactly.
And while you're at it, screw over Comcast. And
YouTube TV.
Yes.
It's the way to go.
Buy a streaming service. It's better.
And cheaper.
And cheaper. That's true. That is very true. Well, that's it for today. Not so crazy. If you like to suggest a topic or respond to us, email bestofpodcast@dominionpost.com or reach out on Facebook at Dominion Post Sports. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our Instagram is the same handle as Facebook. That's at Dominion Post Sports. And Twitter is at DomPost Sports. DOMPOSTSPORTS. You can also contact us individually on Twitter. My handle is at @Spellman_DPost. That's at ASPELLMAN_DPOST.
And I'm at Sean Manning_DP. That's at SEANMANNING_DP.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.